Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Danger Room. I'm Matt Price. I'm here with Chris Borthick, and today we're going to talk about the latest X-Men blockbuster, Logan. Came out of the gate this last weekend with a huge opening weekend, one of the biggest R-rated opening weekends ever. And I think I was looking one article that said if you take away holiday weekends, could end up being the biggest R-rated opening of all time.
Wow.
Minus weekends where you had a 3-day like a Labor Day or something.
Right.
Obviously, some of that's still to play out as we're recording this Sunday, but hopefully we'll have this recording to you shortly, and it's going to be kind of our highlight, some of our take on the film. Our colleagues Anthony and Matt Howlett couldn't make it. Anthony Brown and Matt Howlett couldn't make it today. They may do their own Logan after take at some point, but this is just kind of our quick hits. Chris and I saw it just last night at the Warren Theater here in Moore, Oklahoma, and the crowd was pretty into it, I thought, too, actually. I mean, you get that opening weekend crowd. So Hugh Jackman, it's his basically ninth, I believe, take as Logan / Wolverine, if you count the cameos and everything. You got Patrick Stewart coming back as Charles Xavier. I don't know exactly how many times, but slightly less than 9, but several. And it's kind of a end of the road take of these two characters, which I just thought was fantastic. I guess in brief, to kind of get you started off, is there I wonder if there's a quick synopsis here to tell you about, but basically it's in the slightly near future.
2029, if I remember right.
And okay, here we go. A weary Logan cares for an ailing Professor X in a hideout on the Mexican border, but Logan's attempts to hide from the world and his legacy are upended when a young mutant arrives being pursued by dark forces. Directed by James Mangold, who has a story by credit as well. Starring Hugh Jackman, Daphne Keane as X-23, and then Charles Xavier is Patrick Stewart, as he has been. Scott Frank, James Mangold, and Michael Green are the screenplay credits. They gave some nice comic book credits at the end to John Reed Sr., Roy Thomas, Lin Wayne, Herb Trimpe, Craig Kyle, and Christopher Yost. I think Marjorie Liu, maybe a couple others, for their work on either the Wolverine character or the X-23 character.
Right.
So I don't know. Well, let's kick off, Chris. So they've been making X-Men movies for about 17 years. When you think about it, that's kind of crazy. I mean, you and I are X-Men fans long enough ago that the fact that there would be an X-Men movie of any kind was like, wow, really? And now they've made, I guess, is it 9 total? Has Logan been in all of them? So it's been
Logan's
a lot
Logan's been in, I think, every single X-Men, because he was even in a brief cameo in the Days of Future Past. Not the Days of Future
Apocalypse.
Past. The very first one.
Class.
First Class. That's what I meant to say. Because he even makes a brief cameo there. So I think he's been in just about all of them in some way or another. And, of course, he's had his own spin-off movies as well, which were decent.
I guess the only one he wasn't in would be Deadpool, if you look at it that way.
Right, and I'm still hopeful that Ryan Reynolds works his magic for Deadpool
some kind of cameo or something.
So gets him in there, because that would be great. It's crazy that it's been going on this long, and so this is, according to Hugh Jackman, his bow out as Logan and Wolverine, which is kind of a mixed bag of good and bad. I mean, I'm glad that he gets to have closure for his character. That's in his portrayal of the character anyway. Yeah. And that's really cool.
And this is definitely that.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic script and a fantastic story. I mean, there's always the fear with the superhero movies, especially when you get post-apocalyptic, that things can go one way or the other. But this is just a really tight, really well done story.
And I think you'd have to say the solo Wolverine movies actually got better each time.
They really did, because despite introducing Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in the first Wolverine movie, I'm not a huge fan of that one. It's got some high points, but it's definitely the weakest of the three. Yeah. And I thought the second one was much better, and this one is just a really good story. So
people are saying one of the best all-time comic book movies. Does that fall in with your thinking?
I would say so, particularly in the X-verse. I don't know, best all time. I gotta think. Let's see. What do I stack?
I mean, the Dark Knight is probably considered the high point for a lot of people.
Dark Knights are really, I mean, I think Logan definitely jumps up there into that. It's probably the top 5 for me.
Yeah, they did a really fantastic job. It's not ever slow. I think for fans of Logan who have wanted a little more visceral, violent Logan, you get that with the R-rated film.
Right.
It's maybe over the top for me a couple of times, but I can see. I mean, but they definitely were just like, okay, we got the R rating. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. So, let's see what type of thing should we talk about here. I mean, we don't want to go super spoiler heavy, but there'll probably be some at least mild spoilers as we discuss some of what's happening here.
Well, I mean, there's before we even get into the movie, and we talked about him, there is, or at least in the Warren version, there was that great Deadpool teaser. So,
yeah, I mean, and I think that's being shown for him, which is, I mean, if you're not going to do a post-credit scene, that's kind of a cute way to just, okay, here's our teaser for the next thing. Without doing it post-credits, we'll just do it at the beginning.
Right.
And it's great. I mean, people were laughing. I mean, it's definitely a different tone than the rest of the movie you're watching, but it does get you thinking, okay, yeah, there's some more life in this Deadpool franchise for sure.
Oh, yeah. And watch the online version, because they actually cut part of the full teaser for the theater version, because Stan Lee makes an appearance in the teaser and he's not in the movie version.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, you gotta check that out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think the opening's really good. After that, when we get into, you're showing an older Wolverine having an encounter with some street thugs, and you also find out that, we are going to be in R-rating land when somebody's arm goes flying.
Yeah,
but
pretty quickly.
But I mean, that is Wolverine, and that's probably been, I think that was always kind of a criticism in the comics, and for a while that you weren't really seeing. He's got blades on his arms. He's really not going to do a lot of bludgeoning damage, or it was pointed out to me that they were really good in the movies for the most part, though, to keep their ratings by having him slash people, and we just don't see anything that happens.
Right.
So,
like in X2, he's stabbing people in the chest, and it's going to fall off screen.
Yeah, they fall away so that we don't see the crazy result of that. But I think it opens strong and kind of establishes that he's not doing so well. And they really kind of hint around at the cause of that. They don't really come out and say. He basically says at one point that he knows why he's not doing well and is not healing and doing.
No, they kind of hint that it might have something to do with the adamantium.
Yeah, that was their hint.
But is there something more? We're not really sure. But they kind of hint that maybe the adamantium has had a bad reaction and he's no longer able to heal around it as well as he once did.
Right. Yeah, and that was. So that was interesting. It was interesting to see him, and then of course Professor X and his suffering from some sort of Alzheimer or degenerative disease.
Right, and so you've got the most powerful mind on the planet having some dementia and some stroke type things that not only affect him but affect everyone around him. So they've got him sequestered across the border in like some type of, I don't know, a tank or some type of shielded area, hoping to try to keep other people from being affected by what's happening to him.
Yeah, and you also have Caliban from the comics. He's in as Professor, as caretaker / friend to Wolverine at the beginning of the movie. So
yep, Caliban who's been, I guess, I don't know what his first appearance was, but he's appeared in a lot of the books, X-Force, Uncanny X-Men. He's been around a lot of places.
He's been around a lot, and then most recently, he was in Apocalypse, I think, wasn't he? Wasn't he the arms dealer guy or the Underground Railroad?
Oh, maybe. I didn't put that together, but very possibly. Very possibly, yeah.
So that was kind of a great thing. And then, of course, Pierce shows up, and he's, known from the Reavers, right? And that's
right. And as I was talking to Josh, who works with me at Speeding Bullet, I was thinking of him as a Reaver, and he's like, well, he goes back to the Hellfire Club.
Right.
He made his first appearance with the Hellfire Club and eventually ended up leading the Reavers. So he actually goes back to the Claremont Byrne era as a character. So a guy who has a long history of the X-Men that we haven't really seen. I don't think we've seen in the films before this.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and of course, this all ties into the very end of Apocalypse, really, the X-Men, the Age of Apocalypse, where that last teaser where they pick up all the blood vials and take them off to be experimented on. So, and I'm assuming that corporation isn't tied into Mr. Sinister and everything else. So.
Right, and I mean, I think you could still see that play out in future X films. How they're going to tie to this is kind of questionable. Is this the definitive ending? Does everything work toward this? Or is this like Batman Dark Knight Returns, where it's a possible ending? And some people will work toward it, some people will work... It'll be interesting. But this movie certainly stands on its own.
Definitely.
And works very well on its own. And how it ties in the future, it'll be interesting to see, because we haven't really seen a lot of X movies without Wolverine. So will they recast him and just have a different Wolverine? Will they... have different characters get the spotlight? Will they, I don't know. There's obviously a different direction they can go depending on the timeline, where they wait and have the X-23 character take on that role, which she's done in the comics. You gotta let her grow into it a little bit, but certainly a possibility there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So thematically, I thought this worked really well. You've got, in a lot of ways, Logan, both literally and metaphorically, is being chased by the mistakes of his past, being pursued by his younger self in some ways.
Right.
So that's an interesting theme to kind of take. Can you outrun the mistakes of your past? And what type of sacrifices do you make for the next generation? I mean, both themes that are done in a superhero-y way, but that actual people, it's a real issue that people face in a different way than this.
Well, sure, yeah. Well, they do a great job of kind of making that the theme. And I mean, they even have the clips from Shane, the classic Western, that kind of tie all that together, which was really well done. Yeah, I mean, it's a great, tribute to the character that, you look into him in this depth to say, oh, look at all this terrible stuff you've done. And at one point in the movie, he wakes up from nightmares because of the terrible things he's doing to people.
Yeah.
And there's some worry on his part. The X-23 character is going to have to go through the exact same thing. And hopefully she will be better, as the professor says in the trailer. So, I was going to say, let's see. You'll have to listen for this since we're trying not to spoiler too much. There is a possible hint of what happened to the X-Men.
Why are the X-Men not in the movie? They do kind of give you a radio report, I guess.
Yes.
Listen for that. And you can kind of put it together if you... they don't lay it all out. And I know there's been some internet chatter about there were different times when they had different scenes written that would just lay it all out. But that they thought it was stronger if you just kind of had to piece it together and figure out for yourself your version of what happened.
Well, I mean, there is something to be said for the storytelling of like not monologuing for the audience. It's like just let it come organically. So I think they do a really good job with that. I really enjoyed the interplay between Professor X and Logan, especially during the car trip scenes when they would banter with each other like literally an old man and his son. Some great stuff. Also, local listeners, Oklahoma and Oklahoma City are featured in this particular movie.
Very heavily. Very heavily, actually.
Good news, we are going to have some casinos and hotels, so let's look forward to that. It'll be great times.
I mean, there are casinos around. This was a Harrah's, I think, which I don't think we have. But
this was like a Las Vegas kind of casino, but I was kind of amused by that.
But it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, you don't see Oklahoma City, in a lot of movies.
No, and I mean, a full third of the movie is in Oklahoma, and I mean, even the family could.
I think they
could still be in Oklahoma. Yeah. They could be in Kansas. It doesn't exactly say, but it seems like a good chunk of this movie takes place in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and I think if you're going to make an argument, well, I mean, I don't know. Does any other superhero movie have a significant amount of time in Oklahoma? This could be the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, best movie in Oklahoma ever. I mean, you got like The Outsiders and some different things, and they probably actually filmed here. I don't think this really filmed here.
It might have been like some
second on I-35 or something, but yeah, a good chunk of the movie is in Oklahoma City of the future.
Right.
As they're trying to make their way from the border of the Mexican border all the way up to the Canadian border.
Right. So, one thing that I do love about this movie, to kind of jump around a little bit, is I love that the X-Men of this X-Men universe have somehow gotten comic books made about them.
Yes, that was great.
That was great. Seeing the old school comic books and.
I wish they would release those, the ones they had in the movie. But they definitely were drawn to look very 80s style. If you liked sort of the Claremont run, the Siege Perilous era, it's kind of in there. It's kind of what it felt like, just from looking at the pages.
Yeah, wasn't Cyclops in like his big white X costume from like the X Factor days or something?
That could be right. I'd have to go back and look piece by piece. Although I know Dan Panosian posted some of the pages he did, and I don't know if these were pages that actually got seen on screen or just kind of. I mean, I think they drew more pages than what you really focused on, but it did have a very 80s look about it. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Blu-ray because I want to do some some pausing and zooming in on some of that. Plus, part of the plot, of course, revolves around X-23 and the other mutants that have been created from these blood samples. And I know that we flipped through 2 pages of files,
who they were,
and it showed who the donors were, but it was too fast to catch. They, of course, only stopped really on
Wolverine.
Wolverine. So I was curious who the other people would be related to.
Well, and who all did we see in those young mutant characters? I mean, definitely Richter.
Richter is there. There's a little girl with ice powers, so there could be an Iceman tie-in.
Whether she was a clone or whatever, of Iceman or something.
Yeah.
And there's somebody that had kind of Havoc-esque powers with hand blast of some sort, maybe.
Yeah, there was a hand blaster. There was somebody that was controlling plants. And using them as weapons. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what comic character that's based on. Or if it is. Okay.
Could be a new one of the New Mutants. Coco.
There have been so many X-Men, you think it probably came from somewhere, but I don't know for sure.
Well, I'm sure somebody's had some somewhere in the X-Men. But, no, it's really, but it was very, very cool. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that you want to go back and kind of check out and see what's going on. I think overall, I mean, it's a really good tale for Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
Oh, it's a great finish. I mean, for a guy who, I mean, kind of ironically wasn't even the original choice to be Wolverine and has been so associated with that character.
Yeah.
I mean, has anybody ever gotten luckier than the 20th Century Fox guys when Doug Ray... I mean, not that Doug Ray Scott's a bad actor, although you don't see him around it a whole lot anymore.
Nope.
But has anybody ever got luckier than lucking into Hugh Jackman to play this?
No joke. I mean, I can't imagine that, you're right, Doug Ray Scott, not around very much.
I mean, and I got nothing against him. I don't know what his career path is or whatever, but would he have handled... Who could have handled this character as well as Jackman is? And I know some people were like, "Oh, he's too tall. He's not Canadian enough." But he really has come to inhabit the character for a lot of people.
He really, well, I mean, I think he's a great portrayal of the character. But he's like, the critics of Hugh Jackman are usually the critics of almost all the different portrayals of comic book characters. There's always something wrong with somebody's casting. Nobody's absolutely perfect. I mean, I know that the Razzie-winning Batman Superman movie of late, everyone was rising up against poor Ben Affleck, but I thought he was one of the better parts of the movie, regardless of the fight scene to cross into DC territory. So I mean, casting wise, he's been fantastic. I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anybody else I would want to play Wolverine at this point, and it's going to be really difficult when they recast him, I think, to kind of...
Well, it's going to be a lot. I mean, like we were saying, I mean, as much as Christopher Reeve was associated with Superman, that's four films,
right?
One of which is awful.
Yeah.
And, but that was a lot for the next person to overcome, I think.
Right.
I think Brandon Routh that was part of the problems. People, even as much as he was playing close to that character, they had trouble separating him.
Sure.
So the next guy, after a guy who's really iconic, always has a hard time, I think. And with Wolverine, he's the only person you really think of because he's been the guy who's played him in all these movies.
Right.
So yeah, maybe they go with Laura Kinney because it's not a character that you could have a Wolverine without having it be directly compared to that character. It's a different character. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know who you would get at this point. I'm sure there are people who have ideas. But yeah. Okay, so let's see. Somebody mentioned that the issues, and I don't know if this is true, we have to check, that the comic issues they have are 117 and 132, even though they aren't the real issues, 117 and 132. But in 132, Wolverine faces off against Donald Pierce, and in 117, Charles believes that the X-Men are dead.
Well,
so if that's actually true, I'm just checking Screen Rant here. I was looking to make sure we weren't missing any Easter eggs, and they said those were the issue numbers. So if that's true, that's kind of some interesting connections.
Well, and I'm sure it was deliberate. I mean, that comic book writers have been really good of late about putting in little Easter eggy things for the fans to pick up on. So probably not an accident. That's awesome.
How did you like the Johnny Cash song at the end? I thought that was pretty much perfect.
I thought that was an awesome way to end the film. I commented to the guy sitting next to me that how long's it been since we heard Johnny Cash in the film world? It was just perfect ending. I don't feel like we're finding a lot wrong with this movie.
No, I mean, okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have much of any nitpicks. It's a little gory, probably.
Yeah.
It's a little gorier than I would have it be, but, I mean, they made the movie they want to make. There's a couple times people's heads just get
lopped
right off, and it's a little much for me, but it does sort of show what probably razor sharp claws would do to you, I suppose, more than the other films have.
Well, exactly. And, I guess having seen things like Walking Dead and stuff on television, which to me is somewhat even grosser than, watching people get sliced up. Maybe I was a little desensitized, but I didn't think it was the worst thing. I've seen far gorier stuff, so this was fine. Even, and I've seen Deadpool, so Deadpool's pretty much the blood fest too. So.
Yeah, but that obviously leavened it up with humor to some degree, which this doesn't a whole lot. No. It pretty much, I mean, there's not much that breaks the tension for you ever. It's just sort of, I'm not saying, I'm trying to think if there is any real humor spliced throughout. Not much. I mean, it's pretty much you're on a wire most of the film.
No, I would say the humor really does come from Wolverine's interactions with Caliban and from his interactions with Professor X.
Yeah.
And
with Laura some a little bit once they kind of get to know each other.
And then there is some sort of, funny things because, Wolverine's driving a limo. Mm-hmm. And so he has a lot of weird passengers they show at the beginning where, you've got the girls on their girls' night out, and you've got the guys wanting to scream at some sort of border, which may be a wall, I don't know, between Mexico and America. It's not a humorous movie. It's a serious action movie. And I would rank it up there, though, with one of the best written, not just superhero movies. I just think it's a really good movie.
Has almost more in common with a Western.
Definitely.
Than a traditional superhero movie, which is probably where they're going with the Shane callback. And, it's the gunslinger, one last mission, and can he make it as, guy just wants to put his guns in the ground, but he's got to go one more time. I mean, it's sort of Unforgiven esque in a way.
Yeah, it is. It's very much that final time to take up the mantle, because he's very content, obviously, to go the other direction.
Let other people handle it.
Yeah, I mean, his grand plan in the beginning is to just buy a boat and take Professor X and literally sail off into the sunset on, what's it called, the Sunrider or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, it's but in much that he can't escape his past, he can't escape the fact that he's a hero regardless.
Right.
So he's gonna pick up and do what he has to do, even though, this is the last time.
If this is the last time we see Wolverine, or the last time we see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, it's a heck of a finish.
Amen.
So not a lot of critique from us, not a lot of criticism, but we enjoyed it. I think if you've liked the X films, this is an interesting capper. I think maybe if you felt the X films haven't done some things, I've never exactly seen the X-Men movie in my head from reading the comics, but this does some things closer to that maybe we haven't seen in some of the other films.
I agree.
So that was our take, and feel free to share your take as well. We'd love to hear from you. You can tweet at us at Danger Infinite on Twitter, or find us on Facebook at Infinite Danger Room, or shoot us an email at infinitedangerroom@gmail.com. Feel free to leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, and you can also listen to us on SoundCloud and via newsok.com. So for Chris Borthick, I'm Matthew Price. Thanks for listening.